Okay friends, welcome back to another episode. This is actually like my fifth take of this video because I keep experimenting with this this grid. So here's the deal. I'm doing a, excuse me one second while I step out of frame. So as you know, most of my videos have been for the budget conscious, right? For all of us who are trying to watch our pennies. We can't, afford the real high-end gear. So again, affordability is key. We're trying to get good results, good photography at reasonable cost, right? So I experimented with this. I wanted to experiment with grids for Speedlites because grids for monoblocks are quite expensive, right? Especially, I used the Paul Seba 22-inch high output beauty dish, and the grid is huge and it costs $100. So I'm thinking, is there, because I had no exposure to, forgive the pun again, photography exposure, I had no exposure to grids for Speedlites. I just had never encountered them before. So I'm thinking, surely there must be grids for Speedlites in the name of affordability. So I did a search on Amazon, found quite a few, but the one that really caught my attention was this one. And let me I'll come behind the camera and explain to you what I have here, okay? So this is the JJC SG series. This one is the SG-N, and it says in the box it's for the SB900, SB910, but it also fits the Young Nuo, YN563, and that's what I have on my light stand here. You see I have my light stand, and I have my adapter, and I have my YN563 with the grid. So here's how it works. And by the way, this rectangular slot fits perfectly on the YN563. So the box says SB900, SB910. It's a perfect fit on my Young Nuo YN563. So the box, let me tell you what the box states and the reality of the matter, okay? Now the box, let me show you here. The box states if you use the, let me get some autofocus going on here. Okay, if you use the thin disc, it produces a spread of 45 degrees. Then the thicker disc is 25 degrees. And then if you stack them both together, it gives you a spread of about 16 degrees. And you have to take that with a grain of salt. So let me explain how this works. You have you have this shell here, the hull, and you can see here, this is the cover. It's a threaded cover. And I'll try to, you can see some grooves here, okay? You see some grooves. Let me spin it around a little bit. Okay, and those grooves coincide with the grooves here in the discs. Both of these discs have them. And you just line them up quite literally. You line up the grooves and the discs pop into this threaded cover. So there's the thin one, here's the thick one, okay? Now now you can see the grid effect, right? How it's channeling and funneling light, focusing the light. And so this is a threaded cover, and it screws right in here. Okay, so here's the deal. I've been experimenting with this for about an hour now. The way to get these to work is there's two ways to get these to work. Actually three, and let me explain. And I'll show you some images here after the video. The first one is you have to start with a low power on the Speedlite. I started off with I finally got to about 1/64th power, and here's why. To get this really the beam to narrow, you have to choke the light out using your aperture. Okay, you don't want to use your shutter, you want to use the aperture to choke out light. So here's my point, is if you expose properly, if you hit, with this on, you hit your light meter, whatever the reading is, if you use that, you're going to exceed the frame. You're going to blow out the image. It's going to be a shotgun effect. It's actually going to exceed the frame of the sensor, right? You're going to blow it out. So if you choke it down one stop, the beam comes in a little bit tighter. Another stop, another stop. So I've been experimenting with 4 and 5 stops. So I start with proper exposure, and you really get a nice tight pattern at about -3 EV, -4 EV, which is stops. Okay, so once you get that far down, you're good. The second thing is to move the light in close to your subject. The farther back you are, the bigger the beam. The closer you get, the smaller the beam. And lastly is when you whatever you shoot, if you're going to put this on a wall for effect, you want to make sure it's kind of at 0 degrees. And what I mean by that is, so you can see the grid. If I shot this camera right now, it's going to be a circular pattern. If I deviate, it's going to start to get oblong in either direction. Okay? So make sure you keep your light 0 degrees to your backdrop, and you're going to be fine. Sure, I'll show you the images now.